Started by Bill Gates' daughter, 23 years old. Look, it has big backers.
Forbes 30 under 30.
What does this latest news mean for this company, which has faced some bad news before?
Some of its business partners have suspended working with them while they carry out deeper investigations.
For years, Phoebe Gates insisted on one thing above all else, that whatever she built would be built on her own merit, not on her father's checkbook or his last name. That promise is now colliding with a business scandal that has spread far beyond the tech blogs and into the center of a much bigger conversation about trust, privilege, and what happens when a founder's carefully built image starts to crack. The company at the heart of it all is Phia, the shopping app Phoebe co-founded, and the accusations swirling around it are serious enough that some observers are throwing around words like fraud and even referencing federal law. Whether or not Bill Gates has said a single word about any of this publicly, the internet has already decided how it feels, and the pressure on his daughter has never been higher. Before this year, most people who recognized the name Phoebe Gates thought of her as exactly that, a Gates. She's the youngest of Bill Gates and Melinda French Gates's 3 children, a Stanford graduate, and someone who spent her 20s actively trying to prove she was more than a famous surname. She didn't shy away from public life the way some of her siblings did. She showed up at galas, built a following online, wrote essays about gender equality for major fashion magazines, and became a visible advocate for reproductive rights. But the thing she seemed most determined to prove was that she could build something real in business, something that stood entirely on its own. That ambition took shape while she was still at Stanford, where she met Phia, a young climate activist who would become both her closest friend and eventually her business partner. Together they dreamed up Phia, a shopping platform and browser extension built around a simple pitch: help people compare prices across thousands of retailers, avoid impulse overspending, and shop a little more thoughtfully. It wasn't just framed as a couponing tool. Phia leaned hard into a sustainability angle, positioning itself as a platform for shoppers who wanted to consume more consciously, not less fashionably. The idea caught fire fast. By the time Phia moved out of beta in 2024 and into a full public launch, Gates and Kiani had already landed spots on Forbes 30 under 30 and Time 100 Next list of rising leaders. Time later included Phia among its picks for best inventions of the year, putting 2 20-something founders in the same conversation as major, established tech products. Celebrity investors started lining up too. Names like Sydney Sweeney, Paris Hilton, Jessica Alba, Carly Kloss, and Mindy Kaling were all linked to the company as backers, which only added to the sense that Phia had real cultural momentum, not just access. By the middle of 2026, the company looked like it was thriving. It had funding, a growing user base, and it was sharing impressive revenue numbers with investors and retail partners across the fashion and beauty world. It had even rolled out a new feature, a kind of digital closet where users could catalog and resell clothes they already owned. On paper, Phia was the exact success story its founders had always promised, proof that 2 young women could build something valuable without leaning on family money or a famous last name. Then the story most people thought they knew about Phia started to fall apart. The unraveling began with a Bloomberg investigation that dropped in July 2026, and it centered on something called cookie stuffing. To understand why that phrase matters, it helps to know how affiliate marketing actually works. Companies like Phia typically earn a commission when they refer a shopper who goes on to make a purchase. The tracking that proves a referral happened relies on small pieces of data, cookies, placed in a user's browser. Cookie stuffing is a manipulation of that system. Software quietly inserts a company's tracking data into a shopper's browser even when that company never meaningfully influenced the sale. The effect is that the company can claim credit and collect a commission for a transaction it had essentially nothing to do with. According to Bloomberg's reporting, Phia's browser extension allegedly did exactly that, replacing the referral tracking that belonged to other affiliate marketers with its own identifier during checkout. In practice, that meant commissions that should have gone to the creator, influencer, or marketer who actually referred a customer may have instead been quietly redirected to Phia. When the story first broke, Phia's response sounded almost reassuring. A company spokesperson framed it as a technical glitch that had only just been discovered, saying the issue had come to light within the previous 24 hours and that the team had worked overnight to fix it. It read like a classic tech company apology: mistake found, mistake fixed, moving on. That version of events held up for about a month. Then a follow-up report surfaced internal Slack messages that told a very different story about timing. According to that reporting, Gates and Kiani had allegedly known about the issue since at least December 2025, roughly 7 months before Phia publicly claimed to have just discovered it. That is not a small discrepancy. It's the difference between an honest mistake caught quickly and a known issue that may have been left running for months. The disputed feature reportedly had an internal nickname, something along the lines of Enable Coupon Auto Drop, and according to the messages, it could be switched on or off remotely. That detail matters because it undercuts the idea that this was some unpredictable software bug nobody could control. A feature that can be toggled on command doesn't sound like a glitch, it sounds like a decision. One message allegedly sent by Phoebe herself, dated mid-December 2025, reportedly asked colleagues to confirm the feature was active across every supported website, language that critics say is difficult to square with a company that later claimed it had only just stumbled onto the problem. Internal dashboard data cited in the reporting reportedly showed the feature running continuously from early December all the way until July 7th, which happens to be the exact day Bloomberg reached out to Phia for comment. That timing alone doesn't prove anything. Correlation isn't the same as intent, but it has fueled a lot of suspicion that the feature wasn't fixed because someone finally noticed it. It was fixed because someone knew they were about to get caught. The financial numbers involved are hard to ignore. After the disputed feature was shut off, Phia's average daily revenue reportedly dropped from around $80,000 a day down to somewhere between $10,000 and $28,000. Leaked internal figures allegedly suggested that the questionable attribution method accounted for roughly half of the merchandise value Phia claimed to have driven in June alone. If those numbers hold up, this wasn't some minor, isolated technical slip affecting a handful of transactions. It potentially represented a meaningful chunk of the company's entire reported performance during that stretch. That scale is exactly why some legal commentators have started using much heavier language than affiliate marketing dispute. Attorney Ariel Gibner publicly noted that conduct like this, if it were formally charged and proven in court, could theoretically carry a statutory maximum sentence of up to 20 years under federal wire fraud statutes, along with fines and restitution. That number spread fast across entertainment and business outlets, and understandably so, it's a dramatic headline. But it's worth being precise about what that figure actually means. 20 years is a theoretical statutory ceiling tied to certain wire fraud convictions in general. It is not a prediction, a charge, or anything close to a formal legal outcome for Phia or its founders. No criminal charges have been announced. Allegations reported in the press are not the same thing as proving guilt, and whether any prosecutor even decides to look into this remains completely unknown. Still, the reputational fallout has been swift and brutal. Online reaction has ranged from mockery to genuine anger, with plenty of commentators arguing that Phia may have permanently damaged its standing within the affiliate marketing industry and could struggle to win back trust from advertising networks that depend on accurate, honest tracking. Others have gone further, accusing Phoebe outright of fraud despite what they see as every conceivable advantage working in her favor. Those are opinions, not legal conclusions, but they capture just how much goodwill has evaporated. A lot of that anger circles back to the exact narrative Phoebe spent years building. She talked openly, repeatedly, about wanting Phia to succeed on its own, without her father's fortune or his name doing any of the heavy lifting. Critics now argue that the Gates name was quietly present at every stage of Phia's rise anyway, from the celebrity investors who signed on to the sheer scale of media attention the scandal has generated. A dispute like this involving a lesser-known startup might have stayed contained to trade publications and niche affiliate marketing forums. Because it involves the Gates, it became international news almost overnight. Some corners of the internet have even reached further, suggesting some kind of pattern of dishonesty running through the family, a claim that has zero supporting evidence and says a lot more about the public's appetite for tearing down privileged founders than it does about Phoebe or her father. And that brings us to Bill Gates himself, who is really the quiet center of this entire story despite saying nothing about it at all. As of now, there is no verified public statement from him addressing the allegations against his daughter's company. No interview. No tweet, no carefully worded press release. That silence has become its own kind of story fodder, with people online speculating endlessly about private conversations that may or may not be happening inside the family, conversations nobody outside that family actually has any real information about. It's tempting to read his silence as anger, as disappointment, as damage control, as anything at all. But speculation is exactly what it is, speculation. Nobody commenting online knows what Bill Gates is feeling right now, and neither do we. What we do know is that the practical fallout for Phia is real and ongoing. The company has reportedly started walking back and reversing affected transactions with its brand partners, an effort to rebuild trust with retailers who depend on accurate tracking to know exactly which platforms and marketers actually earned a sale. That kind of trust, once damaged, tends to take far longer to repair than the underlying technical problem itself. Layered on top of that is the unresolved legal question. No formal charges exist right now, but the comparisons some attorneys have drawn to federal wire fraud statutes leave the door open to regulatory scrutiny or civil litigation down the road. Any of those paths would require actually proving intent, which is a much higher bar than a viral headline or an alarming internal Slack message. There's also something almost ironic sitting underneath all of this. Phia built its entire brand identity around conscious, ethical consumption, around helping shoppers make more thoughtful choices. Allegations that the company was quietly siphoning commissions away from other marketers cut directly against that message. For a company that marketed itself as part of a more responsible future for online shopping, accusations like these aren't just a legal headache. They strike at the very foundation of the brand's reason for existing in the first place. So where does this actually go from here? That mostly depends on developments that may still be happening behind closed doors. Phia could face growing pressure from its retail partners, deeper scrutiny from regulators, or demands for a far more transparent account of exactly how and when the disputed feature was running. Gates and Kiani may eventually have to explain, in much more detail than they've offered so far, why their original public explanation doesn't seem to line up with what the internal messages reportedly show. Whether Bill Gates ever breaks his silence on any of it remains anyone's guess. What's clear is that the daughter who spent years trying to prove she didn't need her father's name to succeed is now facing a crisis that has nothing to do with that name at all, and everything to do with the choices made inside the company she built to prove it. Like, subscribe, and follow for more.